Picture a man riding across the open plains in 1850, decades from the nearest dentist, chewing dried meat and hard biscuit without a single toothache slowing him down. It sounds like a myth, but frontier life really did shape teeth differently than modern life does, and the reasons why say a lot about what we have quietly lost in our own daily habits. Life on the frontier was harsh in almost every way you can imagine, yet many pioneers, trappers, and settlers left behind letters, diaries, and even skeletal remains showing surprisingly strong intact teeth well into middle age. That single detail has fascinated historians and dental researchers for decades because it runs against everything we assume about life before modern dentistry. Understanding why frontier tooth enamel held up so well is not about glorifying the past. It is about learning what actually protects enamel and what quietly destroys it, so homeowners today can apply those same lessons in their own kitchens and bathrooms without needing a time machine or a covered wagon. The frontier diet looked nothing like the plates most of us eat from today, and that difference is at the center of the whole story. Settlers ate what the land gave them, which usually meant tough, fibrous meat, root vegetables, coarse grains, and very little refined sugar, if any at all. Sugar was expensive, rare, and often reserved for special occasions rather than a daily habit, which meant the bacteria responsible for cavities had far less fuel to work with. Modern research on tooth decay consistently points back to sugar and refined carbohydrates as the main drivers of enamel breakdown, because those foods feed the acid-producing bacteria living in the mouth. Frontier families were not avoiding sugar for health reasons, they simply did not have easy access to it, and their teeth benefited by accident. This is one of the clearest lessons homeowners can borrow today, since cutting back on sugary snacks and drinks in your own kitchen does more for enamel protection than almost any product sitting on a store shelf. Another overlooked factor was the sheer physical toughness of frontier food, which forced constant chewing and kept the mouth working the way nature intended. Jerky, hardtack, root vegetables, and coarse breads required real effort to break down, and that repeated chewing action stimulated saliva production throughout the day. Saliva is one of the most underrated defenses the human body has against tooth decay, because it constantly washes away food particles and delivers calcium and phosphate back to the enamel surface. Modern diets, full of soft, processed foods, barely require any chewing at all, which means saliva flow is often lower than it should be, leaving enamel more exposed to acid attack. Homeowners looking to protect their family's teeth can take a page from the Frontier Playbook simply by including more raw vegetables, nuts, and fibrous foods in weekly meals, encouraging that same natural saliva boost without needing anything fancy. Water quality also played a surprisingly important role in frontier dental health, even though nobody at the time understood the science behind it. Many frontier communities relied on natural spring water and well water pulled straight from mineral-rich ground, water that often carried trace amounts of calcium, magnesium, and sometimes naturally occurring fluoride. These minerals are exactly the building blocks enamel needs to stay strong, and drinking mineral-dense water every single day gave frontier teeth a steady, quiet source of reinforcement. Compare that to a lot of modern tap water and bottled water, which can be heavily filtered or treated in ways that strip out beneficial minerals along with the impurities. Homeowners curious about their own water quality can request a simple water report from their local utility, and those on well water especially may want to test mineral content, since the right balance can genuinely support family dental health over the years without any extra effort. Of course, frontier life was not some dental paradise free of problems, and it is worth being honest about that rather than romanticizing the past. Archaeological and historical records show plenty of evidence of tooth loss, abscesses, and painful infections among pioneers, especially later in life or during periods of famine and poor nutrition. Without modern dental tools, a cracked tooth or deep infection could become a serious, even life-threatening problem. And there was no reliable way to fix a cavity once it had already formed. What frontier populations mostly avoided was the specific pattern of early, aggressive tooth decay driven by sugar and processed carbohydrates, which is very different from saying they had perfect dental health across the board. This distinction matters because it points homeowners toward the real lesson, which is prevention through diet and mineral support, rather than the idea that avoiding a dentist altogether is somehow safe or wise. This is exactly where the idea of an enamel-supporting tooth powder comes into the conversation, and it deserves a fair, clear explanation rather than a dramatic sales pitch. Long before modern toothpaste tubes existed, many households made their own simple tooth powders at home using ingredients like baking soda, fine mineral clay, and occasionally crushed charcoal, mixed to create a gentle, low-cost cleaning agent. Baking soda is mildly abrasive enough to lift surface stains and neutralize the acids that bacteria produce, while also being gentle enough not to wear down enamel with normal use. Bentonite clay, another common ingredient in historical tooth powders, is rich in trace minerals and has a naturally gentle texture that can help clean the tooth surface without harsh chemical additives. A basic homemade or store-bought tooth powder built around these ingredients can cost as little as $4, making it one of the most affordable dental care additions any homeowner could try alongside their regular toothbrush and floss routine. It is important to be clear and honest here rather than overselling what a simple powder can actually do for anyone reading this at home. No powder, however well formulated, replaces the basics of good dental care, which still means brushing twice daily, flossing regularly, limiting sugar intake, and visiting a dentist for checkups and cleanings. What a mineral-based tooth powder can offer is a gentle, low-abrasion way to support the natural remineralization process that saliva already starts, giving enamel a bit of extra help without introducing artificial sweeteners, dyes, or harsh detergents found in some commercial toothpaste formulas. For homeowners managing a household budget, a simple $4 jar of tooth powder is an easy, low-risk addition to try, especially for family members who prefer a more natural approach to daily hygiene. Just remember that any tooth pain, sensitivity, or visible damage should always be checked by a licensed dentist, since enamel that has already been damaged cannot be rebuilt by a powder alone, no matter how mineral-rich the recipe claims to be. Bringing this frontier mindset into a modern household does not require abandoning modern conveniences. It simply means paying closer attention to the small daily habits that quietly shape long-term dental health. Start by looking honestly at how much added sugar shows up in your family's daily diet. F6. Raw morning cereal to afternoon snacks to evening desserts. Since this single factor mirrors exactly what protected frontier teeth by accident, consider testing your home water supply if you rely on well water, and talk to a dentist about whether your household would benefit from additional mineral support or a fluoride supplement, depending on your specific water results. Encourage more chewing-resistant, whole foods at the dinner table, including raw vegetables, nuts, and tougher cuts of meat, which naturally boosts saliva flow the same way frontier diets did generations ago. If you are curious about a mineral-based tooth powder, treat it as a gentle addition to your existing routine, rather than a replacement for brushing, flossing, or professional dental visits. And keep an eye on how your teeth respond over several weeks of consistent use. The story of frontier dental health is really a story about simplicity and about how modern convenience sometimes trades away benefits we never noticed we were losing. Homeowners today have far more dental knowledge, far better tools, and far more reliable access to professional care than any pioneer crossing the plains ever had. And that progress should never be dismissed or replaced with nostalgia. At the same time, there is real, practical value in borrowing a few frontier habits, cutting back on sugar, chewing tougher foods, paying attention to water quality, and considering an affordable mineral-based tooth powder as one small piece of a bigger daily routine. None of these steps require expensive equipment or dramatic lifestyle changes, just a little more intention around the choices already happening in your kitchen and bathroom every single day. Protecting tooth enamel, much like protecting a home, comes down to consistent small maintenance over time, rather than waiting for a painful problem to force your hand. And that lesson from the frontier still holds true for every household today.